Good evening again. We would like to get started. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, and friends. On behalf of the Bahá'í Chair for World Peace at the University of Maryland's College of Behavioral and Social Sciences, it's my pleasure to warmly welcome you to this evening's program. I am Professor Hoda Mahmoudi. I'm the director, the holder of the Bahá'í Chair for World Peace. And I would like to express my sincere thanks to a number of individuals who have really made this event possible. First and foremost, this event is co-sponsored with the Bahá'í International Community, and my thanks goes out to Ms. Bani Dougal, who's not here tonight. But Ms. Rochelle Bayoni, if you would please stand, Principal Representative to the United Nations at the Bahá'í International Community, is here. Welcome. Also, those who have helped with tonight's program, please stand and just be recognized. Hold your applause till the end, please. Dr. Sohrab Sobhani, I don't think, there he is in the back. Mr. Ramazan Asqarli, please. Dr. Dwight Bashir, Mr. Anthony Vance, Dr. Haide Sabet, Mr. Farzad Qasemi, Dr. Shane Tejarati, Mrs. Giti Ejtemai, and Mr. Hossein Ejtemai and the Ejtemai Foundation. And finally, from the Bahá'í Chair, Dr. Kate Seaman, who was at the front door. It is an honor to gather in this historic institution, the Library of Congress, a place dedicated to knowledge, dialogue, and the preservation of humanity's shared intellectual and cultural heritage. We are especially honored to have in our audience distinguished guests, including members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of governments, leaders from civil society, scholars, practitioners, colleagues, and friends. We are deeply grateful for your presence and for the work that each of you do to advance mutual understanding and cooperation within and across nations. Tonight's program explores how several diverse nations, including Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Cambodia, and Kenya, are actively working to foster peaceful and cohesive societies by embracing cultural, ethnic, and religious diversity. These countries offer valuable examples of how diversity, when thoughtfully nurtured, can become a source of strength rather than division. This event celebrates the practical strategies these nations are using to promote belonging, cooperation, mutual respect across diverse communities. At a time when many societies are grappling with polarization and fragmentation, these experiences that we will hear tonight offer timely and hopeful lessons about how multiculturalism can contribute to social cohesion and peace. So it is now my distinct honor and great pleasure to introduce our master of ceremonies for this evening, Dr. Katrina Lantos-Sweat. Dr. Lantos-Sweat is a distinguished leader in human rights and international affairs with a long-standing commitment to advancing freedom, dignity, and democratic values around the world. Dr. Sweat serves as president of the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice, established in 2008, to continue the legacy of her father, the late Congressman Tom Lantos. He co-founded the Congressional Human Rights Caucus, served as chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and was the only Holocaust survivor ever elected to the U.S. Congress. Under Dr. Sweat's leadership, the Lantos Foundation has become a distinguished and respected voice on key human rights issues ranging from advancing rule of law and freedom of religion and belief globally, to fighting for internet freedom in closed societies, to combating the persistent and growing threat of anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial. She teaches she teaches courses on human rights and American foreign policy at Tufts University. There is a very long list of boards on which she serves, which I will not read, but I will simply say that she serves as co-chair of the International Religious Freedom Summit, which held its inaugural gathering in 2021. We are deeply grateful for her leadership, for guiding us through this evening's program, and for taking the time to be here with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Katrina Lantos Sweat.
Thank you, Hoda, for such a kind and lovely introduction. And I am so delighted to be here with all of you. I have to say that whenever I have the opportunity to participate in any event organized or associated with the Baha'i community, I jump at it. And that is the truth. It has been my experience that more perhaps than any other community that I can think of, the Baha'is, in both their theology and even more importantly in the way they live their lives, truly embrace and embody and reflect the spirit of universal respect, love, inclusion, and unity. They somehow manage to embody that old phrase of being their brothers and sisters' keepers. And I always feel uplifted when I'm in your presence. I actually had the opportunity to visit the beautiful World Center for the Baha'i community in Haifa many years ago. And it immediately brought to my mind one of the more intriguing mini novellas that I have ever read. It's called Mount Analog, and it was written by a Frenchman by the name of René Daumal. Part of what makes this such a fascinating little bit of literature is it's unfinished, and it's unfinished to the point that it literally ends mid-sentence. It is about an expedition that is put together to go in search of a mythical mountain called Mount Analog, which is believed to be the only place on the planet where earth and heaven touch, at the very tip of Mount Analog. And, it's shrouded behind fogs, and it's a tremendous challenge. They don't know if they will be able to land on the shore of this island that contains this mountain. And I've always found that story just engaging and something I can't quite shake. It stays with me, this idea of a place where heaven and earth actually meet. And the reason I share this with you is that when I stepped onto the grounds of the Baha'i World Center, and it sort of winds up through these gardens to a beautiful pinnacle at the top, I had the feeling maybe, and when I make it to the top, I will have reached the peak of Mount Analog. And I share that because it really does reflect just a deep admiration that I have for the Baha'i community, but also this sense that I am elevated, I am ennobled, I am lifted up when I am among you. So you didn't have to twist my arm, Hoda. I wanted to be here, and I am thrilled to be here. Now, you know they say that in life, timing is everything. And at first, it might have seemed that the timing was off for Hoda and all those who worked so hard to pull this wonderful event together, because it was originally scheduled to take place, if I'm remembering correctly, in November of last year. And then we had the government shutdown, and everything sort of ground to a halt in D.C., and Hoda reached out to those of us who were going to be part of it and said, I think we're going to have to reschedule, which was fine, and this date was chosen. But now I sort of feel it may have been meant to be that we met to discuss this very important topic now instead of when it was originally scheduled, because I can hardly imagine a more relevant, a more pressing moment to meet, to talk about how we can advance world peace through building societies that embrace multiculturalism in the deepest sense of the word. Now, it's hard. This is hard work. And the representatives of the various countries we're going to be hearing from today are trying to do it in hard places. It isn't easy, and we should never have any sense of glibness about this. Oh, yeah, why not? Why not multiculturalism? Why not mutual understanding? Why not build societies where everybody is treated as an equal citizen? But we know that this is the great task before us, and I can't think again of a better community to gather us together to pursue this topic. So with that, it will now be my pleasure to introduce our four speakers, each of whom comes from, as I say, countries that are wrestling with these challenges, wrestling in good faith, and trying very hard to make progress. Now, before I introduce our distinguished speakers, I want to point out to all of you, you might be sitting on them by now, but there was an index card on your chair. Pull it out, because there will be a time for questions. And what we'd like to ask you to do is write any questions that occur to you down on the index card. You can just hold it up if you want. During the course of the evening, someone or some ones will be circulating to gather them. So that's the purpose of the index cards. Yes. I am going to now be introducing each of our speakers. I'm going to be doing the introductions as a group. And when I'm done with them, I'd like to invite all of the speakers to come up and join me here on the stand, and then each of them to come forward to present their remarks, 10 to 15 minutes, in the order in which I introduce them. So with that administrative task out of the way, I would like to introduce the first of the speakers we'll have today from the country of Azerbaijan. I had the opportunity to go to Azerbaijan. It is a beautiful country, but as some of you may know if you've been following the news, just yesterday they had drone attacks, missile attacks across their border with Iran. And so although originally we had hoped to have the ambassador himself here, we are very, very delighted that instead we're going to be spoken to by the deputy head of the State Committee for the Work with Religious Organizations in Azerbaijan. That is Sahib Nagiev. And allow me to introduce him. Please come up and join us. Thank you. Have a seat. Sahib Nagiev boasts a distinguished career and educational background. His journey commenced with a commitment to military service that spanned an impressive 35-year period. And allow me to say you look much too young to have had a 35-year career in the military before you began all your other undertakings, during which he honed his expertise as a Middle East specialist. On November 21st, 2020, he assumed the role of Deputy Chairman of the State Committee on Religious Associations of the Republic of Azerbaijan. In recognition of his dedication and contributions, Nagiev has earned accolades and commendations throughout his career. He holds the esteemed military rank of Major General, awarded in 2017 by decree of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan. In addition, Nagiev has been the recipient of various orders and medals, underscoring his exemplary service and commitment to his homeland. Beyond his professional accomplishments, he is a family-oriented individual. He is married and is the proud father of 2 children. His multifaceted journey reflects his unwavering dedication to both his country and his family. And we're so pleased you're here with us today. I have to say, if we're talking about families, I have 7 children and more grandchildren than I want to boast about because it would get to be a little too much. But it's lovely to have you. I also want to just recognize that also here from the Azerbaijani embassy, we have Jahander Alifzad, the head of the Department for the Work with Religious Communities, and Safar Safarli. And we're delighted to have you here as well. Thank you for joining us. Speaking on behalf of Bahrain, and again, originally we had hoped to have the Bahraini ambassador, but once again, the events that are literally unfolding on a minute-by-minute basis have made his presence sort of at his workstation, if you will, mandatory. So instead, representing Bahrain, we will have Dr. S. Rob Sobhani, somebody who I think many of you know well. Dr. Sobhani is a highly accomplished business executive with 30-plus years of advisory work for the highest levels of government in the United States, the Middle East, and multinational energy companies. Dr. Sobhani is the founder of Sparo Corporation, a Microsoft entrepreneurship for positive impact company. Dr. Sobhani also serves as chairman of the advisory board of the Firuza Foundation, an executive member of the board of Z Advanced Computing, and a founder and executive member of the board of Nero Energy. Dr. Sobhani has designed and implemented entry strategies for the CEOs of American, Canadian, and European energy companies with business interests in the broader Middle East, and has also advised both the government of Bahrain and Azerbaijan on their energy projects. Dr. Sobhani holds a PhD in political economy from Georgetown University with a focus on energy economics and an MA in economics and a BA in finance, also from Georgetown. Dr. Sobhani, will you join us up here? There you are. Thank you. Representing Cambodia, we are honored to welcome the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Royal Embassy of Cambodia, Mr. Sochat Sochat is a Cambodian diplomat and public servant dedicated to advancing Cambodia's foreign policy and strengthening its role in the international community. With a career shaped by progressive responsibilities within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, he has developed extensive experience in diplomacy, international relations, and public administration. Throughout his diplomatic journey, Sochat has served in various capacities, from desk officer to leadership roles, including Director and Deputy Chief of Mission at the Royal Embassy of Cambodia. His service has focused on fostering bilateral and multilateral partnerships, promoting peace and mutual understanding, and enhancing Cambodia's economic and strategic engagement globally. With an academic background in economics and finance, Sochat brings analytical rigor and policy insight to his diplomatic work. To further strengthen his commitment to public service, he has pursued advanced studies and professional development in government and international relations. His expertise spans foreign policy strategy, economic diplomacy, and international negotiations. Driven by a long-term vision to contribute meaningfully to Cambodia's global standing, Sochat aspires to assume ministerial leadership with the ambition of serving as Cambodia's foreign minister. He remains committed to promoting peace, constructive dialogue, and Cambodia's national interests amid evolving global dynamics. And Sochat, I will be rooting for you for that foreign minister post. I think it's going to happen. Please join us up here. So we have one more speaker who is still en route. I will do his introduction now, if I may, and when he arrives, he'll come up and take one of these seats on the stage with us. Representing Kenya today is Mr. Bartholomew Lumbasi, Education Attaché for the Embassy of Kenya. Mr. Bartholomew Lumbasi is the Education Attaché at the Embassy of Kenya to the United States. Mr. Lumbasi has held several roles as a civil servant in the government of Kenya, including as Director of Policy, Partnership, and East African Community Affairs in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Lumbasi has been recognized for his work in promoting quality, inclusive education. Mr. Lumbasi holds an MBA in Strategic Management from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, a Master's of Education from Kenyatta University, and a Bachelor of Education in Economics and Mathematics, also from Kenyatta University. Mr. Lumbasi has been responsible for educational policy development and partnerships, as well as in the promotion of peace education in Kenya. Mr. Lumbasi has also played a key role in supporting teacher management and educational initiatives, including the Kenya Science and Engineering Fair. So as you can see, we have an extraordinarily impressive and knowledgeable group of speakers. We'll now be favored to hear from each of them, and after they have each made their presentations, I'll join them on stage as we have time, hopefully, for a brief discussion and opportunity to take your questions. So with that, I turn the microphone over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will speak in Azerbaijan. Axşamınız xeyirli olsun, xanımlar və cənablar.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen,
Hörmətli iştirakçılar, dəyərli qonaqlar.
distinguished participants, dear guests.
Bugün biz bəşəriyyət üçün son dərəcə aktual və həyata əhəmiyyət daşıyan bir mövzunun multikulturalizm və onun sülh quruculuğu prosesində rolunu müzakirə edirik. Elmi, xüsusilə də texnoloji tərəqqinin fonunda dünya sürətlə qloballaşır. Dünyada yeni ictimai, siyasi, iqtisadi mühit yaranır. Bu yeni mühit, o cümlədən beynəlxalq münasibətlərin mövcud konfigurasiyası bizlərə fərqli millətlərin, dillərin, mədəniyyətlərin və dinlərin birgə yaşamasının artıq seçim deyil, zərrət olduğunu diktə edir. Müasir dünyanımızda müxtəlifliyin qorunması və harmonik şəkildə inkişaf etdirilməsi multikulturalizmin əsas mahiyyətini təşkil edir.
So today we are gathered to address an issue of profound relevance and vital importance for humanity, multiculturalism, and its role in the process of peace building. Again, the backdrop of scientific advancement, particularly rapid technological progress, our world is globalizing at an unprecedented pace, giving rise to a new social, political, and economic landscape. This evolving environment, including the current configuration of international relations, compels us to recognize that the coexistence of diverse nations, languages, cultures, and religions is no longer a matter of choice, but a necessity. In the contemporary world, the preservation and harmonious development of diversity constitute that every essence of multiculturalism.
Bildiyiniz kimi, multikulturalizm fərqli mədəniyyətlərin, etnik və dini icmaların bir cəmiyyət daxilində qarşılıqlı hörmət və bərabərlik prinsipi əsasında yaşamasını nəzərdə tutur. Bu anlayış təkcə tolerantlıq deyil, həm də qarşılıqlı zənginləşmə deməkdir. Müxtəliflik cəmiyyətin intellektual və mənəvi inkişafını təkan verən bir gücüdür. Hazırda multikulturalizmin əleyhinə çıxmaq, onun iflasa uğradığını iddia etmək və ya bu istiqamətdə fəaliyyət göstərmək dünyanı yenidən fəlakət və müsibətlərə sürükləmək deməkdir. Düşünürəm ki, multikulturalizm əleyhinə aparılan iş ksenofobiya və rasizmin alovlandırılmasına xidmət edir. Fürsətdən istifadə edərək hər kəsi, xüsusilə siyasətçiləri, siyasi ambisiyalar naminə belə ifadələr işlətməməyə, bəşəriyyət qarşısında məsuliyyətlərini dərk etməyə çağırıram.
As is well known, multiculturalism envisions a society in which different cultures, ethnicities, and religious communities coexist on the basis of mutual respect and equality. It represents not merely tolerance, but genuine mutual enrichment. Diversity is a powerful driver of intellectual and moral progress within society. To oppose multiculturalism today, to claim that it has failed or to act against it, would be to risk plunging the world once again into division and instability. So a force directed against multicultural values ultimately serve to inflame xenophobia and racism. I therefore call upon everyone, particularly political leaders, to refrain from rhetoric driven by narrow political ambitions and to recognize their responsibility before humanity.
Dünya xəritəsinə nəzər salsaq, Azərbaycanın olduqca həssas bir bölgədə yerləşdiyinin şahidi oluruq. Bununla belə, ölkəmiz əsrlər boyu müxtəlif xalqların və dinlərin nümayəndələrinin vətəni olmuşdur. Bəzi xalqların və dinlərin nümayəndələri öz yurt yuvalarında məhrumiyyətlərlə və təzyiqlərlə məruz qalaraq ölkəmizə pənah gətirmişlər. Onlar hazırda da Azərbaycanda yaşayırlar. Bunlara nümunə kimi 2500 il bundan qabaq ölkəmizə pənah gətirmiş Yahudiləri, 200 il bundan öncə ölkəmizə pənah gətirmiş Malakanları göstərə bilərik. Xalqımızın ona sığınanlara yad kimi yanaşmamış, onlara daimi dost, qardaş münasibəti bəsləmişdir. Təsadüfi deyil ki, ölkəmizdə əsrlər boyu müsəlmanlar, xristiyanlar, Yahudilər və digər dini icmalar sülh və qarşılıqlı hörmət şəraitində yaşamışlar.
A glance at the world map revealed that Azerbaijan is situated in a highly sensitive geopolitical region. Nevertheless, for centuries our country has been home to representatives of diverse peoples and religions. Many communities having faced persecution and deprivation in their native lands found refuge in Azerbaijan. Among them are the Jewish community which sought refuge in our lands approximately 2,500 years ago, and the Malakans who arrived nearly 2 centuries ago. Our people didn't treat those who sought shelter here as strangers. Rather, they extended friendship and solidarity. It therefore no coincidence that Muslims, Christians, Jewish, and members of other religious communities have lived in peace and mutual respect in Azerbaijan for centuries. This tradition continues today and remains one of the central pillars of state policy.
Ümumiyyətlə, Azərbaycan cəmiyyəti, ziyalıları, o cümlədən siyasətçiləri birmənalı olaraq multikulturalizmi xalqımızın həyat tərzi hesab edir, onun inkişafı üçün səylə çalışırlar. Bu səbəbdən Azərbaycan Respublikasının Prezidentinin sərəncamı ilə 2016-cı il ölkəmizdə multikulturalizm ili elan olunmuşdur. Cənab Prezident dəfələrlə yüksək tribunlardan bu məsələyə münasibətini bildirmiş, onun qorunmasını vacib saymışdır. Belə çıxışların birində BMT-nin Sivilizasiyalararası Alyansının 7-ci Qlobal Bakı Forumunda çıxış edən ölkə prezidenti multikulturalizmin alternativi yoxdur. Əgər biz dünyəvi və demokratik bir cəmiyyətdə yaşamaq istəyiriksə, multikulturalizmi qorumalıyıq fikrini səsləndirərək, multikulturalizmin demokratiya üçün də alternativsiz olduğunu vurğulamışdır.
Azerbaijani society, its intellectuals and political leaders alike unequivocally regards multiculturalism as a way of life and works diligently to advance it. In recognition of this commitment, 2016 was declared the year of multiculturalism in Azerbaijan by presidential decree. On numerous occasions, the President of the Republic has underscored the importance of safeguarding these values. Speaking at the 7th Global Forum of the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations in Baku, President Ilham Aliyev stated, "There is no alternative to multiculturalism. If we want to live in a secular and democratic society, we must preserve multiculturalism." With these words, Mr. President emphasized that multiculturalism is indispensable not only for coexistence, but also for democracy itself.
Bugün multikulturalizm həm də sülhün qarantiyasıdır. Düşünürəm ki, onun sülhün və əmin amanlığın qorunması və inkişafında əhəmiyyətli təsiri vardır. Çünki sülh sadəcə müharibənin olmaması deyil, bu ədalətin təmin olunması, insan hüquqlarının qorunması və cəmiyyət daxilində sosial harmoniyanın yaradılması deməkdir. Buna görə də siyasətçilər, alimlər, ictimai xadimlər multikulturalizmə lokal, dövlətlərin daxili məsələsi kimi baxmamalı, onun inkişafı eyni zamanda dünyada yayılması üçün çalışmalıdırlar.
Today, multiculturalism also serves as a guarantor of peace. Peace is not merely the absence of war, it's the presence of justice, the protection of human rights, and the establishment of social harmony within society. For this reason, policymakers, scholars, and public figures must not regard multiculturalism as a purely domestic matter. Rather, they should actively promote its development and global dissemination.
Bildiyiniz kimi Azərbaycanla Ermənistan 32 ildən artıq müddətdə müharibə şəraitində yaşamışdır. Ermənistanın silahlı qüvvələri Azərbaycan ərazisinin 20%-ni işğal etmiş, yüz minlərlə Azərbaycanlı qaçqın və məcburi kökün həyatında yaşamağa məcbur olmuşlar. Uzun illər Azərbaycanın sülh təşəbbüsləri qəbul edilməmiş, əksinə müəyyən qüvvələr tərəfindən Ermənistana havadarlıq edilmişdir.
As you're aware, Azerbaijan and Armenia lived in a state of conflict for over 3 decades. The armed forces of Armenia occupy approximately 20% of Azerbaijan's internationally recognized territory, forcing hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis to become refugees and internally displaced persons. For many years, Azerbaijan's peace initiatives were disregarded, while certain actors extended support to Armenia. In 2020, hostilities erupted once again, culminating in a 44 days war during which Azerbaijan restored its territorial integrity.
Ötən ilin avqust ayının 8-də Vaşinqtonda ABŞ prezidenti Donald Trump'ın təşəbbüsü ilə Azərbaycan və Ermənistan arasında sülh memorandumu imzalanmış. Hazırda Azərbaycan Respublikası və Ermənistan Respublikası arasında sülhün və dövlətlərarası münasibətlərin təsis olunması haqqında sazişin paraflanması istiqamətində işlər davam etdirilir. Azərbaycan sülhə sadiqliyini nümayiş etdirmək üçün öz ərazisindən Ermənistana yüklərin daşınmasına icazə vermiş, iki ölkənin ictimaiyyət nümayəndələrinin qarşılıqlı səfərləri təşkil olunmuşdur. İnanırıq ki, yaxın vaxtlarda Azərbaycanla Ermənistan arasında davamlı və ədalətli sülh müqaviləsi imzalanacaq. İki dövlət arasında bir daha müharibə olmayacaq.
On August 8th of last year, a peace memorandum between Azerbaijan and Armenia was signed in Washington at the initiative of the US President Donald Trump. Currently, work continues toward the initialing of the agreement on the establishment of peace and interstate relations between the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Republic of Armenia. Azerbaijan has demonstrated its commitment to peace by permitting the transportation of goods to Armenia through its territory and by facilitating reciprocal visits between representatives of civil society. We remain confident that a comprehensive and lasting peace agreement will soon be concluded, ensuring that the two states never again resort to war.
Sülhdən, multikulturalizmdən danışarkən, dinlərin bu məsələlərə münasibətindən söz açmamaq qeyri-mümkündür. Hamımıza məlumdur ki, sülhün ilk növbədə insanın daxilində başlayır. Onun düşüncəsində, münasibətində və davranışında əks olunur. Tarixə nəzər saldıqda, dinlərin sülhün və mənəvi kamilliyin təşviqində mühüm rol oynadığını görürük. Bütün dinlər insanı ən ali varlıq hesab etmiş, onun kamilləşməsinə, mərhəmət, sevgi və ədaləti gücləndirməyə çalışmışdır. Məsələn, Quran-ı Kərimin Maidə surəsinin 32-ci ayəsində buyurulur. Hər kəs bir kimsəni öldürməmiş və yer üzündə fitnə fəsad törətməmiş bir şəxsi öldürsə, o bütün insanları öldürmüş kimi olur. Hər kəs belə bir kimsəni ölümdən qurtarsa, o bütün insanları diriltmiş hesab olunur.
When discussing peace and multiculturalism, it is impossible not to address the role of religion. Peace begins within the individual in thought, attitude, and conduct. Throughout history, religions have played a significant role in promoting moral refinement and peaceful coexistence. All major faiths regarding the human being as the highest creation and seek to strengthen compassion, love, and justice. As the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah states, whoever kills a soul unless for a soul or for corruption in the land, it's as if he had slain mankind entirely. And whoever saves one, it's as if he had saved mankind entirely. This verse affirms the sanctity of human life and unequivocally condemns violence. Similarly, in Surah Al-Hujurat, it's proclaimed, mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Diversity, therefore, is not intended as a cause of conflict, but as an opportunity for mutual understanding.
Bu çağırış insan həyatının ali dəyər olduğunu və zorakılığın yol verilməzliyini açıq şəkildə ifadə edir. İslam dinində insan həyatının toxunulmazlığı xüsusi vurğulanır. Digər bir ayədə isə sülhü və mərhəməti əsas prinsiplərdən biri kimi təqdim edərək buyurur. Ey insanlar, biz sizi bir kişi və qadından yaratdıq. Sonra bir-birinizi tanıyasınız deyə sizi xalqlara və qəbilələrə ayırdıq. Bu ayə göstərir ki, müxtəliflik qarşıdurma üçün deyil, əksinə, tanışlıq və qarşılıqlı anlaşma üçündür.
So another surah which we mentioned before, similarly in the Surah Al-Hujr, is proclaimed that mankind, indeed we have created you from the male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Diversity, that's why this surah states that therefore is not intended as a cause of conflict, but as an opportunity for mutual understanding and respect.
Digər dinlərin müqəddəs kitablarında, Tövratda, İncildə, o cümlədən Bahá'iliyin banisi Baha'ullahın əsərlərində də bu fikirlərə tez-tez rast gəlmək mümkündür. Məsələn, Baha'ullah buyurmuşdur ki, insanlığın rifahı, sülhü və təhlükəsizliyi yalnız onun birliyi möhkəmləndirlikdə təmin oluna bilər. Bu fikirlər göstərir ki, müxtəlif dini ənənələr mahiyyət etibarilə sülh və birliyi təşviq edir.
Comparable message of found Baha'u'llah, sorry. Okay. Comparable message are found in the Torah, the Gospel, and the writings of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Bahá'ísm, who affirmed that the well-being and security of humanity can be achieved only through unity. These teachings demonstrate that diverse religious traditions fundamentally promote peace and solidarity.
Təəssüf ki, bugün dünyada dini radikalizmin, irqçilik, ksenofobiya və ayrı seçkilik halları artmaqdadır. Sosial şəbəkələr və informasiya müharibələri bəzən nifrət və bölücülük ideyaların yayılmasına zəmin yaradır. Bu isə cəmiyyətlər arasında inamsızlıq yaradır və sülh prosesini zəiflədir. Bəzən bu istiqamətlərdə din xadimləri də iştirak edirlər. Bu da nifrət və düşmənçiliyi gücləndirir. Məsələn, Azərbaycanın ruhaniləri, onların mərkəzi Qafqaz Müsəlmanları İdarəsi sülhü dəstəklədiyi halda Erməni Apostol Kilsəsi Azərbaycana qarşı revanşist çağırışlar səsləndirir, radikal siyasətçilərə də əməkdaşlıq edir.
Regrettably, the contemporary world is witnessing a rise in religious extremism, racism, xenophobia, and discrimination. Social media and information warfare sometimes facilitate the spread of hatred and division, undermining trust and weakening peace process. In certain cases, religious figures themselves become involved in such dynamics. While Azerbaijan's religious leaders and the Caucasus Muslim Board consistently advocate for peace, the Armenian Apostolic Church has at times aligned itself with revanchist rhetoric and radical political actors.
Düşünürəm ki, belə halların qarşısının alınmasında təhsil mühüm rol oynayır. Gənc nəslə tolerantlıq, dialoq və qarşılıqlı hörmət dəyərləri aşılanmalıdır. Məktəblərdə və ali təhsil müəssisələrində multikulturalizm mövzusu sistemli şəkildə tədris olunmalı, fərqli mədəniyyətlərin tarixi və irsi öyrədilməlidir. Çünki cəhalət, ayrı seçkilik və ədalətsizlik münaqişələrin əsas səbəblərindəndir.
In addressing this challenge, education plays a decisive role. Young generation must be instilled with the values of tolerance, dialogue, and mutual respect. Multiculturalism should be systematically taught in schools and universities, and the histories and cultures, heritage of diverse communities should be studied comprehensively. Ignorance, discrimination, and injustice remain among the primary causes of conflict.
Sülh quruculuğunun ən təsirli vasitələrindən biri dialoqdur. Dinlərarası və mədəniyyətlərarası dialoq insanların stereotiplərini aradan qaldırır və ortaq dəyərləri üzə çıxarır.
Dialogue is one of the most effective instruments of peace building. Interreligious and intercultural dialogue dismantles stereotypes and reveals shared values of the mankind of peoples.
Hörmətli dinləyicilər, multikulturalizm yalnız siyasi konsepsiya deyil, həm də mənəvi seçimdir. Bu seçim insanın qarşısındakı fərqliyə necə yanaşmasından başlayır. Əgər biz müxtəlifliyi təhlükə deyil, zənginlik kimi qəbul etsək, o zaman sülhün təməlini möhkəmləndirilmiş olaraq.
Distinguished audience, multiculturalism is not merely a political doctrine, it's a moral choice. It begins with how we respond to difference. If we perceive diversity not as a threat but as enrichment, we lay the foundations for enduring peace. The calls for mercy and justice in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, as well as the Bahá'í vision of human unity, remind us that common ground among religions is far greater than division. A society built upon these shared values will be more resilient and more just.
Unutmayaq ki, sülh uzaq bir ideal deyil. O bizim gündəlik davranışımızda, sözlərimizdə və münasibətlərimizdə formalaşır. Əgər biz bir-birimizi anlaşmağa çalışsaq, dialoq qursaq və qarşılıqlı hörmət prinsiplərinə əməl etsək, multikultural cəmiyyətlərdə həqiqi və davamlı sülhü təmin edə bilərik.
Let us remember that peace is not a distant ideal. It's shaped daily through our words, actions, and relationships. If we strive to understand one another, engage in sincere dialogue, and uphold the principle of mutual respect, we can ensure genuine and lasting peace within our multicultural societies.
Diqqətinizə görə təşəkkür edirəm. Əgər kimsə sualı varsa, mən cavablandırmağa hazıram.
Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, so I'm ready to answer your question.
Sual.
I am not Ambassador Al Khalifa of Bahrain. That's very obvious. Saeed Bey, thank you very much for your warm introduction of Azerbaijan. I'm proud. Thank you. Thank you. As you know, Ambassador Al Khalifa is facing an existential situation. There are attacks on his country. But when he and I met to discuss this conference, he said, what I would like to say is that Bahrain, even though we're small, we have a big heart. And I think that's what he wanted me to convey to you today, that it's a small country with a very big heart. And the way he described this heart is very interesting. My wife and I years ago went to Bahrain, and we went to the museum called Beit al-Quran, which is the museum of the Quran. There, in the Beit al-Quran, you will see large carpets, you'll see small carpets. It's carpets from all over the world, woven by people from Somalia, people from Uzbekistan, people from Kazakhstan, people from all over Yemen, all over the world, from Azerbaijan. But it represents this fabric that unites us all together as humans. And that fabric is what the ambassador wanted me to convey today. So thank you very much. He apologizes for not being here. And I all invite you to go to Bahrain when the dust settles, because it will settle. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter, so I just thank you, our panelists who spoke before me. I know what to say. They say all the angles of peace and multiple cultures and everything is included. I wish I had the privilege, have a translator, so I can speak my own language. So, I am Suchit Deputy Chief of Mission of Cambodia Embassy in Washington, D.C. And actually, right now, I'm a CDA, mean charge d'affaires. It means when your ambassador leave or absent, you represent your country after. Working as deputy is just like a bottlenecks, Everything can come to you. And then it's reach to the top. Sometimes it's hard, but it's a good experience that posted in Washington, D.C., a great capital of United States of America. Because when I was called for the assignment here, I was in my lawn, in my garden, doing gardening. And then the ministry said, you are appointed to U.S. I said, wow. That's so different. But I love these cities very much because they have a lot of trees, a lot of river. Because I was born and raised in Cambodia, southern Cambodia, there's a lot of river, trees. So amazing. What is lacking is water buffalo. You don't have the water buffalo in America. So let me briefly talk about Cambodia before we're getting serious. Cambodia, situated in the Southeast and in the Southeast Asia, is one of the Southeast Asian nations. It's called Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So we are bordering with Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, and the Gulf of Thailand. So Cambodia used to be a big empire in the 1st century. We practiced Hinduism. And then in the 14th century, we converted to Buddhism. But I still seeing the mix between Hinduism and Buddhism together. So in the year 60, we have faced one of devastated conflicts and war, and it ended until 30 years, just recently in 1989. We just gained peace in 1989. But through peace, Cambodia was the one hosted peacekeeper. But now we became the contributors of peacekeeper. So from 2006 until now, we sent out our peacekeeping officer around 10,000 peacekeeping to 10 UN missions around the world. And more than 1,000 of them are women. So let me touch base a little bit from academics scholarship. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have a little bit experience through my works. When we're talking about peace, we're talking about two things, importantly. Talking about the negative peace and the positive peace. The negative peace means you have peace, but everything. You just have a lot of insecure things. It's happening right around you. You may have direct violence with you. You still have a structural violence with you. You still have a cultural violence with you. So in that sense, to gain a negative peace, you have to eliminate those kind of situations. So Cambodia went through negative peace. From the 1975, when the coup d'etat happens, and then the fall of Khmer Rouge to the city, killing millions of people, including my father, my aunties, 6 of them was executed. So we went through that. So we gained peace just recently through national reconciliations. The two men worked together, the late King's father and the former prime minister, sit down and talk about country reconciliations. We not spend bullets, but we build a peaceful nation just 20 years ago, 19 years ago to be exact. And then, guided by our Pentagon strategies, Cambodia aimed to become a middle income countries by 2030s and become a high income countries by 2050s. Just a brief period of 20 years. Through that peace at home, we build and develop respect for human rights, and then they are inseparable because you cannot eliminate direct violence, structural violence, cultural violence without human rights. You cannot have a peace building without a stable society. That's all we needed. And thanks to a beautiful lady over there, which has a brief talk. What do you think about peace? I think peace, importantly, start within you, within yourself, and start with your family. And I have met the beautiful families of Heidi. Thanks for guiding us here to the stage and provide me opportunity to speak the experience of our countries. That's the core value of each religions. It's about building a families, a peaceful family. And then you spread it into your communities, and your community building a strong roof and become maybe a political movements that can influence your politicians, that can influence maybe not in your countries, but other regions, just like we are gathering right now. That's so important. And reminded us, peace is not solely in your countries. During COVID, I published a book with friends in Hong Kong about how the government responds to the major responses to COVID-19. And we see that the country succeeds start from their own communities. And believe that your house is not safe if your neighbor are not safe. That's very true. And we should learn from that. From this very moment, I think if we have been, peace has been a hard won for Cambodia, but sadly, now Cambodia also face the conflicts, not from within, but from our neighbors. That's very hard for us. So we need to build a trust and sincerities through what? Not by force, but by communications, through talk, through the escalations, and restore the normalcies. So sincerity and trust is credible if you are continue to work together. So I talked to Heidi and her beautiful families. It's our work as a diplomat. If the diplomat work well, so military doesn't have to work. So sometimes we fail, but we continue to build from within our heart that the Cambodia and individual Cambodian have learned through history that peace, that the only treasures that we cherish from the past, present, and to the futures. I thank you all for your kind attentions.
Hello. How are you? I think it's good evening to you all. So my name is Bartholomew Lumbasi. I'm from the Embassy of Kenya in Washington, D.C. I serve as the education attaché, touching on cultural matters of research. And I'm here today on behalf of our ambassador, who is engaged in other events. But I'm proud to be here so that I can talk about what my country does as far as multiculturalism and peace building is all about. And I think I will not be like my brothers who have been here already. Our ambassador has already spoken. And Kenya is a strategic country in Africa. It's actually the gateway to Africa. It's a home to more than 15 million people from different backgrounds all over the world. And it's a seat for the United Nations Habitat, and it's a designated seat for the UN headquarters as they're relocating from New York. And actually, it is a whole center of peace for the region. It's an anchor knowing of what goes on in our neighborhood, starting with Somali. We've played a crucial role in stabilizing Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda before, and now DRC Congo, and many other countries far and beyond, in Liberia and Haiti, just in our neighborhood, just because we value peace. And in doing this, there are many things that we look into. One is to institutionalize peace and human rights within our constitution. And to achieve this, also we have got specific legislations that have been established that promote equalization. That is the national cohesion. And also we have got key institutions that are advancing in terms of ensuring reconciliation and looking into the past injustices. And we also subscribe and ratify most of the conventions that are there globally. Take note of what it's all about, but in this subject, which has been of great interest to us, is how can you bring up a holistic person right from childhood to be able to embrace peace? So we ensure that this is embedded within our curriculum, ensuring that the children through a spiral curriculum acquire the right values so that they can coexist peacefully and also be able to resolve conflicts in an amicable way. In the same vein, we try to see into it that just for us to remain afloat is to internationalize our education system, either by allowing the faculty members from far and beyond Africa to come and also teach and participate in curriculum development through exchange programs, and ensuring also we are a home to many students from these particular other countries within the region. So through that, the students are able to learn different ways of coexisting together and value one another. In the same vein, through education, is to allow these students to participate in peace clubs, because we realize that having gone through internal conflict, the only way to remove this bitterness is to ensure that people talk to one another. And if they talk to one another at early ages, then they will learn how to live together. So that has also been a very key element that has inculcated values for them to coexist together and value other people within as they grow up. In the same vein, at higher level, also, we have specific institutions that teach about peace, and at graduate level, bachelor's and graduate level, being able to undertake studies, peace studies, and conflict resolution. And through continued research in the region, then specific strategies are able to be realized that have yielded fruits and bringing different leaders together. And being a host of all these particular institutions, we've realized that peace is essential, because if you are at peace with your neighbor, then you also you realize a catalytic ripple effect in terms of development, in terms of business. You're able to attract people. So in this case, we want to say that we embrace peace, and there are different ways of doing this through different groups that are also committed to promoting peace, right from youth alliances that bring together people from different regions, but also through interreligious groups, either you are Muslim, and whether you are Christian, whether you are Buddhist. We embrace each other, and the religious, through the national interreligious organization, leaders are able to meet and have discussions on how to realize peace. And essentially, working together through established institutions, either through the trade unions, through the economic business councils, and bringing business communities together to discuss about this particular subject, we are able to promote peace. The key catalyst that also breeds division is media. So the active involvement of media, whether social or print media or through televised media, if they constructively engage in debates that are aimed in realizing peace, then we shall indeed realize peace. And also, in case of conflict, it has to be regulated. If it's not regulated, then actually it is the fastest way of ensuring the escalating war. So in this case, we also look at how can we regulate media? How can we constructively engage media? And in issues they discuss, how can they promote peace? That is something that is essential that we are looking at. And then, being a member of the non-alliance movement, actually, if you don't take sides and ensure that also you're not siding and you're not siding with any group and promoting peace in engaging in dialogue continuously, you restore confidence, and each of these particular sides are able to identify with you through alternative ways of dispute resolution. So in this case, at community level, this has to be inculcated, that through the small groups, either at county level, at village level, people are supposed to discuss through the peace committees. And through these peace committees, we are able to realize peace right from the community level. And if other communities are engaging in war, one community gets in and they're able to bridge and be ambassadors of peace. So we are a home to more than 80 languages, to more than 47 ethnic groups, but we all coexist irrespective of our small differences. We are one nation that is united, and we are confident that through this continued incidences of working together, we have realized 91% levels of tolerance and 89 in terms of being able to reconcile and ensure that we continue to work together through religious groups and through the regional organizations, either at high level as heads of states, being brought together to discuss and come together to go out and prevail on others to have peace. So in this world, what I believe in is this. There's nobody who owns God. And the way you perceive God should not be an inhibition and to another person in the way that person worships the same God. So if we all believe we are created by God, and then you only need to reflect on yourself. And if you have your own internal peace, then you will be at peace with yourself, you will be at peace with your neighbor, and you will be at peace with your God. Let's all go out and know one thing. You're only better if you live out your life for another person.
Well, we really have been treated to some wonderful, insightful glimpses into the ways in which these different countries and our different speakers see the path to peace. And in some senses, I think what we've just been privileged to hear sort of captures that spirit of multiculturalism leading to peace in the way that each one of our speakers had a slightly different take, a slightly different path to get to the same destination. We heard talk about how each life is sacred, that to take a life is as if you destroyed the whole world, that raising up of each of us to a place of truly sacred importance. We heard our dear friend from Cambodia talk about how peace starts within. It's not just something out there and abstract, but it has to begin within each of us. And then our wonderful speaker from Kenya talking both about the importance of education. What is it that we are equipping our children with? How are we training them to be those who will build peace in their lives? And alerting us also to the dangers of media that too often seeks to sow discord and division. And representing Bahrain, just warmth and affection and a big welcome mat, come one, come all, which we all thoroughly enjoyed. It's now my great pleasure. Unfortunately, we don't have time to take your questions, and I do apologize for that. But we do have time for closing remarks from someone who it is my very great pleasure to introduce to you. I wish I had time to share the full biography of the Reverend Johnny Moore, because it's really pretty impressive and very, very remarkable. But as I was looking over the long version, and I have here the short version, it struck me that Johnny Moore is one of those people who, with no biography, with no introduction, if he just came in here looking perhaps like a homeless guy who wandered in off the street, the minute he began to speak to us, you would know and you would feel that you were in the presence of a truly extraordinary person, because he has devoted his life at every level and in every way to bringing light and understanding, bridge building and solutions, faith and freedom, literally across countries and cultures and communities. He is an absolutely extraordinary person who doesn't really need that crutch that sometimes we rely on, that bio that says, this is where I was educated and this is what I accomplished, because it all comes out of him, and I know you will feel it when you hear him speak. You know, we've all noted, if you follow the news at all, that our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has a very, very full portfolio. He's the Secretary of State. He's the head of the National Security Council. He's the President's National Security Advisor. I believe he's also our National Archivist. Well, and there may be a few I'm missing. If I was the one sort of giving people titles in my administration, I would like myself or some president sometime somewhere to appoint Johnny Moore as the Secretary of Doing Good for All Mankind, because he is honestly highly qualified for that position. Do you want me to read his bio, or do you just want to hear him? Okay, after that, I am not going to read his bio. It's awesome. You can go online and look at it, but please welcome my very dear friend, the Reverend Johnny Moore.
There is a temptation on evenings like this one to reach for the language of optimism, to pronounce that we've glimpsed a better world and to urge one another toward it. I want to resist that temptation tonight, not because we don't have reasons for optimism, quite the contrary, but because we have witnessed tonight something that is so much more serious and so much better than optimism. We have heard evidence. The nations represented here and what they've conveyed to you here tonight, they're not presenting us with theories. They're presenting us with commitments that they have made and are making, and some commitments at a very great cost. In the conviction that diversity, multiculturalism, managed with wisdom and genuine goodwill, becomes not a source of fragmentation, but resilience. That is not a comfortable thesis in this particular moment in history. It is a countercultural one, and that is precisely what makes it worth taking seriously. I have indeed spent much of my professional life at the intersection of religion and foreign policy all over the world. And what I can only call the stubborn hope that human beings are capable of seeing one another clearly across the greatest lines of division. I've sat in rooms in Jerusalem and Riyadh. I just came from the Oval Office a few minutes ago. I've been in Brussels and in Washington, where I live. I've been in places sometimes where that hope of multiculturalism seemed at best to be naive. And yet I have also watched people who have had every reason to be enemies to choose instead to be neighbors. Not because they erased their differences, but because they decided that their differences did not have to have the last word. To quote His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, my friend, ignorance is the enemy of peace. And this is especially what the Bahá'í tradition has long understood, and what this chair that we also celebrate tonight has worked so steadily to illuminate. That unity is not uniformity. That peace is not at all the absence of tension. Otherwise, we would never have peace. It's just the presence of justice. That belonging does not require the surrender of identity. These are ancient insights, but they require fresh courage on behalf of all of us in each and every generation. Tonight, we have been in this company of courage, not just through your speakers, but through each and every one of you who in some way, even just by being here tonight, have demonstrated your commitment to a better world. We will leave tonight not with a blueprint. The complexity of human societies, they defy blueprints, I can assure you. But with something far more brilliant, far more durable, the knowledge that this can be done. It has been done, and it will be done. That in the particular context of tonight's nations, ordinary and extraordinary people have found ways to hold pluralism, not as a burden to be managed, but as a gift to be cultivated, a joy to be enjoyed. And that is not nothing. It is in this present climate in our world, it is everything. And so I want to join all of you tonight in expressing my own gratitude for the Baha'i Chair for World Peace, for all of our speakers, for convening us this evening, this beautiful evening, this ode to hope. I want to express my gratitude to the scholars here and the practitioners, to the diplomats that have given us their very valuable time in a very complex moment, who shared their experience with candor and with honesty. And my gratitude to each of you for being the kind of people who show up for evenings like this one. Because the world is built on the end on people, by those who choose to be engaged. And here, as a Christian, I'll recall two pieces of Jewish wisdom. Where there are no leaders, be a leader, the Talmud says. And it is not up to us to finish the task, but neither are we free to desist from it. We will hand a better world to our children, to our future generations. We have no other option. And this is where being a person of faith is like having a superpower, because we always have hope. I remember the story of a plane that was facing unbelievable turbulence, the worst turbulence anyone had ever experienced. And there was this grown man, this brilliant businessman, tough guy, sitting next to this little girl. And he was terrified. And she was fearless. And when that plane landed, safely, thank God, that tough business guy with all the experience in the world and every reason not to be afraid of anything, but having just been terrified out of his mind, he looked at that fearless little girl and he said, I just have to ask you, how were you so brave? And she said, sir, it's very simple. My father is the pilot, and I knew he would get us home. And in just a few seconds, we will all go home after some mingling and continuing the conversations. But we will go home to do the work. And we will work together with optimism to accumulate even more evidence than we've heard tonight, that all God's children can conduct our lives together as an orchestra of peace. And that's my message for you this evening. Thank you very much.
What a wonderful, powerful, inspiring, and yes, optimistic note on which to end a truly memorable and beautiful evening. You know, I like to think I have a few skills in life, but one of the things that I cannot do, that I have never been able to do, but I have always wanted to do, was be one of those fabulous mathematicians who can have 3 or 4 huge blackboards filled with these unbelievably elaborate equations with squiggles and lines that I don't even know what they mean, but I've always admired that. But alas, math is not my strong suit. However, even though I know very little about mathematics and I could never solve one of those daunting equations, I know enough to understand that if you make a mistake on the first blackboard, if you make a mistake early in the equation, it does not matter how long and how hard you work on the rest of it, the answer will never come out right. You cannot ignore an error at the start and hope to get the right answer at the end. We have too many nations, too many communities where there's a mistake early on in the equation. And they may try many, many different ways to make the answer come out right. But until they and until we are ready to go back and find where we went wrong on that first blackboard, the answer will not come out right at the end. And I think after listening to our speakers today, after the inspiring words of the Reverend Johnny Moore, we know that getting it right at the beginning has to do with faith, with humility, with love, with a sense of unity, with a realization of the truth in the beautiful analogy that I know is familiar to all members of the Baha'i community, that in a very profound way, we are all leaves on branches of the same tree. And if we can really take that wisdom, take that insight into our lives, I think we can get off on the right foot with our equation. And yeah, there will be other mistakes and we'll have to get our erasers out and figure it out. Our education minister can tell me that teachers sometimes have to get their students to redo their work. But if we can get the root of it right, we will get there in the end. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to the Baha'i Chair, to the Baha'i community, to all of our speakers, and to each one of you for being part of this very special gathering. And with that, we will bring it to a close, and we invite you to stay for a reception and for visiting. Thank you so much.